Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships. Apologies for no video yesterday, being what would have been our Friday highlight. This is still going to be our pretend Friday highlight, even though it's Saturday, because I pulled a flimsy. I've done this I think this is the third time I've done this now. So normally I have Fridays off, but that wasn't the case yesterday. I had to work, and then starting in the afternoon, I got a pretty decent headache. Took medicine for that, came home, and laid down, got some dinner with me, sat down, recorded a whole video featuring the Dmitry Donskoy, because I thought I had not featured that ship before, done an upgrade commander build video on that ship. So I produced the whole video, I did the editing, I uploaded it to YouTube, all good to go there. Now time to make the thumbnail. And as I normally pull my thumbnails from, I look for Google Images to see if there's like a bland image of maybe, you know, the San Louis there, or sorry, Dmitry Donskoy. And lo and behold, there's like, you know, that awfully looks a lot like the style of a thumbnail that I do. Oh, crap. So there's a YouTube video there in Google Images of me already featuring the Dmitry Donskoy. So, yeah, so I had to scrap that, and then my headache turned into a full-on migraine, and yeah, that sucked. So, you are getting the San Louis today here on, I think this is map as the Atlantic in domination mode, where things are going to turn south for us very quickly here up at the Charlie Cap. There's probably going to be a similar theme for those of you who watched the Riga video, which we had the opposite spawn and we came up the 9 line and then we had to kite out. This is going to unfold into a kiting match, which San Louis is actually very phenomenal in doing. Now, unfortunately, as we move up here, before I talk more about the ship, our gearing has got a little too excited. A lot of destroyer players will dive towards the island there, as he takes a bit of a chunk there from the enemy Montana. But Gdansk has smoke, Gdansk has radar. And Gdansk wants to pick this battle now. In fact, that happened last time. I see this often on this map. So Gdansk would actually want to pick this fight with the gearing here. So we've used our engine boost since we came out of spawn, because we wanted to try to get up here as soon as possible, because that's one of the things San Louis does. You can see we're actually putting 40.8 knots right now. She is a fast French ship. Now, the other thing, unfortunate for the gearing, is that there's also a Stalingrad. So he dove into the cap before knowing what else might potentially be here. So that's something I would encourage you. If there's radar cruisers or ships on the enemy team, try to find out where they are at before you just full on dive the cap. So we're going to lose him. So this is putting us in a very bad situation, because essentially we lose our spotting. So now, have you noticed it yet? Look at the mini-map and tell me what you see. That blue dashed circular line, and we just got spotted over 13 kilometers away. We are a lighthouse build San Louis, as I kill my throttle here to turn away, as we have steering gears mod in the 5th slot. So we avoid taking that salvo. Now, because of what's unfolding here, you have the Montana, you have the Stalingrad, and if you look on the mini-map, there's a battleship that hasn't been spotted yet since he's been in F9. This is very much quickly looking like we are going to have to kite. Yes, there you go. It's the Bourgogne there in the background. And we have our Cleveland being a little too aggressive. He, of course, has his 9-kilometer radar. But it's going to be very difficult for him to face off against 3 tier 10 actually 4 tier 10 ships here on Charlie. So yeah. So my clanmate and I have decided that we are going to be running. Because as you look to the south, our team has a pretty good foothold. Looks a setup happening at A. So this is going to be a battle in which we are going to see if our teammates can buy time for us in terms of flipping to A and then moving up from A through Bravo. So that's really what it's looking like at this point, as we lose our Cleveland to the enemy Montana. So just like that, we've lost a lot of support here at the C cap as the Gdansk is going down more towards Bravo. So we are going to open up. We wanted to stay dark until we got our forward turrets flipped around. One of the things that you tend to do here with the Saint Louis, as I said, she's quite good at kiting, as we also have the top grade gunner, so that's part of our lighthouse build here that we have going on. But she also has a pretty decent fire chance with these guns. So let's talk about these guns that have an 18.3 kilometer range. So the reload time on these guns, we have the main battery in the 6th slot, is 9.68 seconds, since we take things into account like the top grade gunner, like Adrenaline Rush, which hasn't activated yet. We've not lost any health despite taking or having 348,000 potential damage. Our reload time, of course, starts getting down more quickly. Now, the top grade gunner skill will shave off, I believe it's 8% on our main battery reload time, and is a permanent 10% secondary battery reload time reduction, but we don't really care about that. But these are 2 and 3 millimeter guns. Now, the high explosive shells, without adding any fire signals, or maybe even perhaps the demolition expert, yeah, it's still called that, has a 15% chance of starting fires. So we could build into that, and when we get our fire chase up to 18%, which is actually pretty decent here, as we get our 3rd fire set, now our 4th fire set. Because our goal here, as we have, we have this other engine boost running, which is another strength of the Saint Louis, as it is a 20% maximum speed engine boost. So it's among almost the best. I think the other one is was it the emergency engine boost or something? It's whatever Ragnar gets, a short burst duration, or Polyomilio, I think, as well. So it's what the French line is known for in terms of having the speed. So we're going to try to, again, shoot this Gdansk. We want to whittle him down as much as possible, help out our friendly destroyer player in Bravo, near Bravo, the Z42. Z42 is a pretty decent destroyer here in World of Warships. I'm actually probably going to pick that up as my next steel ship, as I've underestimated that ship once or twice, and learning not to make that mistake. Now, after taking a 500,000 potential damage, or possibly 500,000 potential damage, as we're also being mindful of that cheeky Stalingrad in C, our Adrenaline Rush is now activated. Now you can actually see we have really good torpedo firing angles here on the Saint Louis. And these torpedoes, as I was having the same issue last night, yeah, so the range of these is actually 9 kilometers. They hit for 14,833 damage. They're 60 knots without building into them, with a reload time of 90 seconds. So I'm not particularly thinking I'll land anything with the torpedoes, but I tend to fire them because why not? So one of the things as well, we're keeping, as you noticed, the Bourgogne just outside of our concealment range. We're not staying within the 14.5 on him. Now I probably would be a little more willing to, but I'm really having to be mindful of the Stalingrad in C, and then also knowing that there's a Montana. If it was just one battleship, I probably would slow down and let my top grade gunner skill take effect here. This is a little bit of how I like playing lighthouse builds. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons listed in WoW's wiki, and I thought they listed one of the cons really well, which is difficult to pull off per se with the lighthouse build, but the pros is that you have a decently fast cruiser, and with the 20% engine boost consumable, the ship is super nimble, especially once you build into, like the 5th slot. I'm taking the steering gears mod 2, so it's reducing our rudder shift time by negative 40%. You have a good shell velocity and shell trajectory with an incredible 18.3 kilometer firing range, so that allows us to kind of keep them pretty well at arm's length here. As we continue kiting, as our team has won the A, now they're going to be pushing up from Bravo to Bravo. So working as intended, our plan is, at least so far. You have the incredibly good torpedo angles I talked about, and then you also have that main battery reload booster, which we've just activated here. It can allow guns to set multiple fires with high explosive or devastate enemy broadsides with armor piercing if given the opportunity with these 203mm guns. So basically what I'm doing here is my plan is trying to be a pain. We want to set as much fires as possible, which is really great in how the main battery reload booster works. You get 5 charges of it when you take Superintendent, cooldown time of 80 seconds, action time 15 seconds, as it halves your reload time, as now we're getting our next engine boost going here. And using that rudder shift time, you're going to see 2 battleship salvos here. We're actually going to find the windows in. So we dodged the Montana one, and here comes the Bourgogne, and we also find another window there, and on top of activating our speed. So very nimble cruiser here. In terms of the cons, as with the rest of the French cruiser line, the Saint-Louis has a subpar armor scheme. It cannot be relied upon, and that is definitely true. This is not just because you have hydro and engine boost, main battery load booster, and torpedoes doesn't mean that this ship is built for pushing. She's a mid-range to long-range cruiser. When I say mid-range, let's say 12 kilometers is typically what I talk about at the mid-range. If you were going for a max conceal build here on the Saint-Louis, you would be 11.74. So that's actually within that 12 kilometer window you can come in and out of not being detected. But, you know, as we've not taken the concealment, we're 14.49 overall here. And then, of course, if you take something like, what is that here? The heavy HE and sap shells, that would actually push our consume up to 16.66, but I don't have quite a high enough commander here yet on the Saint-Louis to consider taking that skill just yet, but we'll talk about it in the upgrading commander build video, which probably will happen on Monday, if I'm being honest at this point. We'll see. And we're going to be rocking back and forth with our speed. You can see we're going forward, we're going reverse. We've slowed down because both the Bourgogne and the Montana, they have slowed down and they've turned out. They're kind of getting tired of being set on fire, which is kind of one of the area of denial, if you will, that the Montana and the Bourgogne don't feel comfortable pushing out past down from the 4 line, B4. So that gives our team time to flip Bravo and continue to put pressure on them. And if the Bourgogne and Montana come out past that island there at C5, basically they begin to not be able to angle as well. They'd have come directly down the 4 line to be still be angled to both Doom and I. Other cons is the torpedoes are an emergency weapon at best. You can only launch 3 torpedoes from each side of the ship. It's still better than none. Your AA suite is decent at best. Concealment is mediocre, which is hazardous since she relies on her range to avoid enemy retaliation and makes it difficult to disengage when needed. So that's the Saint-Louis overall, as we're going to get another fire set there. And as I talked about with the main battery reload booster, you want to be able to, like, what I aim to do is when I see a battleship or maybe that Stalingrad player, if they've used their damage control party, then my goal is to activate the main battery reload booster after their DCP's gone off cooldown, and then see if I can't set another fire or maybe even a double perma fire until they have to wait for that DCP to come off cooldown again, or just let the fire burn out its full duration. Now here as we push up, typically with light cruiser play, let me just talk about that playstyle in general. It's not for most players here in World of Warships. You know, I have other cruiser lines I build into the conceal. You know, we can do kind of what we're doing here with the Saint-Louis, but I personally have wanted to do something different with the French line, especially as I've been building this commander up for the Henri. But it requires you to have a very mental focus. You have to be aware of your positioning. You have to have map awareness, right? So even though earlier, like we couldn't see that Stalingrad in MEC, he still took a cheeky shot at us when we're actually showing him broadside, but we were able to avoid it there as he's facing down against the enemy Schlieffen here. But it does require it's a higher skill floor gameplay. Of course, you could definitely rock the 12-kilometer conceal, and that's probably, honestly, is what maybe it's ideal for most players here in World of Warships. The reason why I've gone for the Lighthouse build, again, is I wanted to do something different as Yamato claps the massive broadside of the Stalingrad. But I wanted to go for something different here, as we're getting our last engine boost used here, and we didn't even have to use any of our hydros, from what I recall. So the Lighthouse build is not for the faint of heart, especially if I go full-blown Lighthouse build and taking the heavy HE and sap shells. Basically, that just causes a plus 10% to your main battery, high explosive. And since your guns are over 149 millimeters, being 203s, then you get a plus 15% penalty on your ship detectability range. So, yeah, making you that 16.66 conceal. Now, the other thing to take into account here is you actually do get spotter plane, but you have to give up your engine boost. But that's kind of what makes the San Luis so great, is having the engine boost, as you see what we've done. We've preloaded the AP. This first salvo is going to be pretty poor, and we've activated our reload booster, but Doom is going to clap him, because he basically pushed out into the most perfect crossfire possible, having two of us on this side, on his starboard, and two on his port side. So it's going to take us into the post-battle results. We're going to do 121,000 damage, 156 shell hits, 9 set on fires. A little tricky to land more shells when we were playing more at that 16, 17, 18. It's still doable, but it's not as reliant per se if you try to get more than that 14 to 15. And it was a really good team play overall what was happening here. We didn't do insanely great. We're going to talk to the team with that. But it was like we did our role as a cruiser player and what we were supposed to do. We really whittled down the battleship as much as possible. We were that deterrent. We kited them. We did what we were supposed to do. So you can see our fire damage alone was 46,000 even. And our armor piercing we just did 2,597 with, which I think is what we used there at the end. But not a good battle to highlight the armor piercing, because I've had some really good nasty AEP broadside salvos with the San Luis going up against enemy cruisers, but you know, it was just battleships at Gdansk and Stalingrad. So you know, the default setting there is going to be high explosive pretty much, unless we get broadside like we did there at the very end. So again, I think it will probably be Monday at this point, if I'm being honest. I actually still have, woke up still with a headache. It's not a migraine, I felt crap last night, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm going to try to take today as easy as possible. So just look towards Monday for me to be doing the upgrading commander build video. So just apologies, I pulled a flimsy there, and you know, I can't always control the health. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you as always to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.